Hello, and welcome to another Trickjumping tutorial. In this video, I'll explain how to do homing capthrows, otherwise known as HCT or MCCT, how to speed them up, how to fix 3 common problems, and finally, how to vector them. Homing capthrows are tech used to get more distance by stalling Mario's height. They consist of 1. Throwing Cappy, 2. Shaking downward, and finally 3. A rainbow spin. Now, I will break them down and talk about each part. 1. Press Y or X to throw a Cappy. You can also shake to throw a Cappy, which is what an MCCT is, and I will go into more depth on them later in this video. 2. Shaking downward. When you shake while Cappy is out, he looks in a circle for things like coins or enemies to go towards. If there's nothing, Cappy will follow a certain path to get back to Mario depending on what direction you shook in. This is known as homing, which is where the Homing Capthrow name comes from. The path from shaking downwards happens to be the fastest since you fall a little as Cappy is going downward himself. Also, do not spam shake in attempt to make it as fast as possible. It will lead to a lot of inconsistency, and most of the time it actually causes a slower homing capthrow. 3. When Cappy returns, press A or B to get a rainbow spin. Mario will do a little spin and a rainbow twirl will appear. It does not actually matter if you do the homing capthrow before or after the cap bounce, it's completely up to preference. That said, when you time it changes depending on if you choose to do it before or after. If you prefer to do it before the cap bounce, you want to throw Cappy slightly higher or at the same height as the landing. Then do the cap bounce as soon as possible after the rainbow spin. If you prefer to do it after the cap bounce, make sure to wait so that Cappy comes out as a single throw. If the animation is different, then you got a double throw, which means you're actually losing distance. If you're struggling with the speed, the solution is to practice timing them to a metronome beat, not spam shaking. With a metronome, you want to input the capthrow and then the shake on consecutive beats. Good speed is around 140 BPM, which I will play now for a few seconds. Another indication of good speed in game is if you can do a single jump, do the HCT from peak height, and can throw out Cappy again before landing. The 3 most common problems with homing capthrows are Cappy just staying out instead of homing in, Cappy going to the side or upward, and finally missing the rainbow spin. If Cappy just stalls out, it means you shook too early. A shake can first be registered after 19 frames. So my advice would be to use a metronome at around 140 BPM and try to time the capthrow and shake on consecutive beats. I talk about this a little more in the previous section. If Cappy goes to the side or upward instead of downwards when you shake, that means the game registered your shake as that direction. Make sure that you are holding your controller level to the console. Also, when you're going to shake, make sure you aren't physically lifting the controller just before you shake downward. Even if you think it is small, the game can sometimes pick this up as an upward shake. Finally, if you're missing the rainbow spin, this either means you pressed A or B before Cappy was back on Mario's head, or you waited like a full second after Cappy returned to do it. 99% of the time, it's the former, which you can fix by intentionally reacting to Cappy returning to Mario's head instead of anticipating it. While this will make them slow at first, over time you will consistently hit it earlier and earlier as it gets into your muscle memory. MCCT stands for Motion Control Capthrow, but it's most often used to mean an HCT done with a shake for the Capthrow. Specifically, it's the Capthrow you get by shaking a Pro controller downward or shaking a single Joy-Con, not both, in any direction, but preferably up or down. That is why it's recommended to use separated Joy-Cons instead of the grip if you prefer to play with Joy-Cons. The reason all high-level trick jumpers use MCCT is mainly for consistency and a small part for speed, because it's only 2 total frames faster. Many people simply find MCCTs more consistent or natural to do. That does not mean it's easier though. In order to prevent up throws, spin throws, or weird shake directions, here's how I do 2 downward shakes in quick succession without being really uncomfortable. As mentioned in the common problems section, make sure to hold your controller level. Now when you go to throw Cappy, lift up just the back of the controller subtly so that the controller is pointing up and away from you. This changes the angle of the controller instead of the height. While this feels very similar to physically lifting the controller up, it's less likely to register a shake. Next, when you go to shake downward, make sure you do 1 distinct shake with a moderate amount of power and bring the controller back to a neutral angle. Then repeat for the second shake. Assisted homing capthrows are a special type of HCTs because they require a wall, NPC, or object to be on the jump path. They are allowed on all 0.5 through 10 main server jumps, but for other jumps, the rule of thumb is only do it if the example clip uses it. There are 2 ways to get one with a wall. The first is as soon as Cappy hits a wall, you can shake to home him in. This is faster because you don't have to wait the normal amount of time before Cappy can begin homing in, and the wall also blocks Cappy from going more sideways, thus coming back faster. The second way is if you throw Cappy, he hits the wall, and then Mario moves close enough that he'd be inside Cappy. This causes the game to immediately give Cappy back to Mario, and allows you to get a rainbow spin. There is one small caveat to the second method, which is that if you're too close, i.e. you don't see Cappy come back at all or barely see him, you won't get a rainbow spin and will become unable to throw Cappy again. Getting an assisted HCT with an NPC or object is just like the second method for a wall. Take this toad. As soon as you throw Cappy into it, Cappy immediately returns, allowing you to get a rainbow spin without needing to shake. You need to be far enough away that Cappy can start to come out, otherwise you won't be able to get a rainbow spin and won't be able to throw Cappy again. I do address vectoring homing capthrows in my vectoring video, but I will include it here as well. Throw Cappy at about a 45-degree angle, which is the same thing as upright or up left. Hold this angle as long as you can, and just before you can rainbow spin, circle to 45 degrees in the other direction. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any other questions, you can ask in the comments or join the Trickjumping Discord and ask there in the Trickjump help channel. Have fun jumping!